Good morning and welcome to Face the Nation. I'm John Dickerson. We had planned to start with Senator John McCain and Lindsey Graham, who are in Kabul, Afghanistan. But while we wait for their helicopter to land, we're going to start with the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff. Congressman, let's start. Before we move on to national security, I want to start with the more recent news. Attorney General Lynch, who has the ultimate say in the email case against or in which Hillary Clinton is involved, had a chance meeting with Bill Clinton on a tarmac. You were a prosecutor. Wouldn't the fact that the husband of somebody you were investigating was on the tarmac at all just set off alarm bells immediately?
Well, you know, it certainly could. Look, I think both of them wish their airplanes had never come anywhere near each other, and I think they've both acknowledged that they would prefer they had never gotten together. But I do think it was a chance encounter. And I also fully believe what the Attorney General has said, that they discussed nothing about the case and just talked about their grandkids and playing golf. So I understand this was a regrettable instance where they got together quite coincidentally, but at the same time, the Attorney General has said, look, she's going to let the career prosecutors and the FBI make the decision about how to handle the case, and I have every confidence in her that that is exactly what will happen.
And you think that's enough to put away the concerns about conflict of interest or the shadow that she even says was brought about by this meeting?
I think it is. Look, you're never going to satisfy some people, but I have tremendous confidence not only in the Attorney General, but also in Director Comey. They're very straight shooters. They have been career prosecutors in law enforcement their entire lives, and if they say this is what they're going to do, if they're going to conduct this investigation by the book, that is exactly what's going to happen. So I have every confidence that they will make a completely apolitical decision and do what's in the public interest here.
Let me ask you about the substance of this email server before we move on. Your expertise in the Intelligence Committee, you understand cyber espionage. We know, and you've heard about these reports of the Russians hacking into the Democratic National Committee. It's a security matter and intelligence. Didn't having a private server at home leave a huge security vulnerability for the Secretary of State?
Well, using a private server was certainly a mistake, and the Secretary has acknowledged that using any kind of personal server, whether it was her own private server or a commercial personal server, adds a security vulnerability. But we have to put this in perspective. The State Department's own .gov server has been hacked. We know that that has been successfully breached. We don't know that there was any successful breach of Secretary Clinton's server. The reality is none of these servers are immune from cyber attack. You have to defend them the best you can. And the best practice is obviously to use a government server at all times and make a lot of improvements to those servers, which frankly we are still light years from perfecting. But yes, it was an unnecessary vulnerability to use a private server, and the Secretary has acknowledged that was a mistake.
Do you think, given what you know about the efforts to try and get in and into the personal emails of all kinds of people in all of government, that some attempt was probably tried? Do you just, given what you know about all the different efforts in cyber espionage?
It certainly wouldn't surprise me. Look, we have hacks of the Democratic Party. There's obviously great interest in the Secretary and in Donald Trump in terms of foreign powers, as well as criminal hackers. So yes, you would have to expect it would be of great interest. You'd have to expect prudently that people would try to get in. I take the view, frankly, that everyone is going to ultimately have access to our personal accounts. So none of this can be trusted. Unfortunately, it's just the reality that the cyber offense often moves much more quickly than the cyber defense, which has to protect and lock every door.
Turning now to the terrorist attacks this week, Turkish President Erdogan said, for terrorists, there is no difference between Istanbul, London, Ankara, Berlin, Chicago, Rome. What's your feeling about these uptick in attacks all over the world and what that means for security here in the United States?
Well, we're dealing with a vicious and adaptive enemy, and their attacks are all very strategic. That massive attack we just saw in Baghdad is designed to pull Iraqi troops away from Mosul, where there's a hope that an offensive can be launched to retake that town. The attacks in Turkey are designed to send a message to the Turkish government that to the degree that they fight along the border with ISIS or that they make Incirlik available to our Air Force for bombing runs, that Turkey is going to pay a price. The attack in Bangladesh, I think, is a result of losing ground, literally losing ground in places like Syria. and wanting to expand globally, because without the draw of an expanding caliphate, they're going to have recruitment problems and already are showing a diminution in foreign fighters joining ISIS. So these are all very strategic. We're going to have to intensify our intelligence sharing. We're going to have to intensify our homeland security. We're going to have to work with our Muslim allies on better countering this ideological draw that ISIS has, this perversion of Islam. We're going to have to intensify all of these efforts, but I don't think it will call for us to move in some completely different direction.
What's your feeling about the threat here in America, but also the threat to Americans traveling abroad? Is there reason for more concern?
Well, there is, unfortunately, reason for more concern, and I think the CIA Director Brennan last week listed all the reasons why ISIS is still virulent. It is, very much losing territory, but at the same time expanding its global presence. And when people are self-radicalized, as we see in the United States, and they don't share their plotting with others, that makes it very tough to stop. And we're seeing these returns of these foreign fighters to places like Europe. What is also very significant about the recent attack in Turkey is that, according to the Turks, this was conducted by Russians, Uzbeks, Kyrgyz. We're seeing a return of the Caucasus fighters. They had been considered too valuable on the battlefield to take away and send back as foreign fighters. But that is changing. I think the emphasis is changing on this global terrorism campaign, and that introduces new risks and new vulnerabilities that, unfortunately, we all have to be very aware of.